22 wins, 6 draws, and 17 losses in 45 games. After a dodgy win against Coventry City in the FA Cup semi-final, that is Erik Ten Hag's record with Man United this season. In these 45 games, we have scored 76 goals from 77 XG in 672 shots, as you can see here, and we have conceded 74 goals from about 79 XG in 754 shots. On average, we've had 53% possession across this season. These stats are painting the picture of a team that is bang average and should be finishing mid-table around 10th or 12th place. And based on the performance that we watched today, we don't even deserve to be in the FA Cup, let alone get to the final. Then you add in the context of the actual performances we've seen across these 45 games, and you'd probably say that this team deserves to be out of every single competition we've participated in and be about 12th or 14th in the table, because that's how poorly we've played this season. So who is at fault for these poor performances? Who's at fault for the games where we actually play well but end up losing? If your answer is Erik Ten Hag, you are probably right. This season has been terrible in more ways than one. And Ten Hag has definitely done enough for Ineos to sack him on the spot, maybe at the end of the season, but definitely get sacked. So let's actually talk through everything that has gone wrong for Ten Hag this season and see if we can figure out what the club should actually do with him and actually make our minds up about him as well. Make sure you stay till the end because you might be surprised by some of the things we talk about in this video. Let's get into it. Let's start things off by talking about the shambolic performance in the FA Cup game today, because that is arguably the most relevant thing to talk about when talking about Ten Hag out. We started off that game in comfortable fashion. We were playing in a 2-4-2-2 shape that you can see here, with both our center backs basically on the halfway line, one fullback in Dalot joining Mainu in defensive midfield, the other fullback in Wan-Bissaka joining the attacking midfield quadruple that we had here, with Wan-Bissaka, Fernandes, McTominay, and Garnacho, and then Rashford was kind of playing next to Højlund as an inside striker almost, right, between the three center backs that Coventry were playing. Now, if we look at the first half stats of this game, right, we go to the first half stats. The picture of domination is fully backed up because we had 65% possession, 1.85 XG compared to their 0.03, 11 shots compared to their 1 shot, and more importantly, this momentum graph right here till the first half in the 45th minute, look at how much red there is in this graph. That paints a picture of control, of domination of possession, of shots, and of us impressing our will onto the other team. Then we go to the second half, and there's a slightly different picture being painted. Because till the 66th minute exactly, we seem to have more or less a similar amount of control as the first half. And unsurprisingly, 66th minute is when we subbed off Garnacho. And look at this shift in momentum that happens till the end of the game. It's up and down, till we let Coventry score 3 goals and fully get back into the game. And the second half stats paint that very same picture. 50-50 in terms of possession, 1.59 XG for Coventry to 0.38 for us, 12 shots for them with 4 on target, 2 big chances created and none missed, compared to our 6 shots, 1 on target, 1 big chance that we missed. And so after that Garnacho substitution, we basically let them have 9 of their 12 shots, which came in the last 20 minutes of regulation, and they pretty much dominated us out of that game. If you talk about the players, they lost this game by themselves. There are mistakes that Ten Hag made, which we'll address in a second, but we didn't have 11 Ten Hags running around today being 3-0 up against Coventry. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, what the actual hell was this man doing today? This is probably the worst individual performance I've seen from a United player in years. And that is difficult to do because you're beating out Phil Jones, Marouane Fellaini, and Andre Onana amongst all other all-time greats. So the first goal is a cross from Wan-Bissaka's side. The second one is a weird looping deflection that comes off of his back where he hunches over as the shot is taken. And the penalty in the final minute of stoppage time. I mean, he's going towards the ball like a goalkeeper with both his hands like completely stretched out. You could maybe argue from a consistency perspective that shouldn't be given by the refs because the Grealish one wasn't given for Man City. But putting your arms out like that is just asking for a decision to go against you. And I'll tell you what, if we want to give Onana a break towards the end of the season, maybe we should put Wan-Bissaka in goal because he certainly seems like he has the arm reflexes for it. What pisses me off the most is this is the second time this season he's done that. In fact, the second time this month probably, because he gave away a penalty against Liverpool in the last few minutes of that game and basically cost us 2 points because I don't think Liverpool were actually going to score that day. So a lot of weird, frustrating things happening from a lot of our players that have brought us to this point. Now, let's get on to Ten Hag. How many games do we have to lose from the jaws of victory before we start putting equal blame on the coach as we do on the players? If I go through this list of 45 games this season and look through some of the games that we should have won but drew or lost, let's see if we can find a common theme. Against Arsenal, in this game right here on 3rd of September, Garnacho's goal is narrowly disallowed for offside, and then Arsenal score 2 goals very late. Let's put this one on, say, Johnny Evans and our defenders being weak. Against Munich and Galatasaray and Copenhagen in the Champions League, we lose games because of some terrible goalkeeping from Onana and terrible team defending in general. So let's put that on those reasons. Then we lost 1-0 to Palace at the end of September after smashing them 3-0 in the Carabao Cup a few days before that. And that one we can probably put on Højlund missing 2 big chances in that same game. Then we look at the 2-1 loss to Fulham in February. And let's say we put that one on not taking our chances and bottling at the end because of some terrible defending. Then we have this 3-game stretch against Brentford, Chelsea, and Liverpool, where we could have and probably should have picked up 9 points, but we didn't. Against Brentford, we deserved to lose, but Mount put us 1-0 up in the 96th minute, and we could have easily gotten away with 3 points, but we conceded an even later equalizer. Against Chelsea, we deserved to win, but gave up 2 cheap goals in the end in added time to Cole Palmer. Against Liverpool, we again deserved to lose, but Liverpool couldn't finish their dinner that day, so we decide to serve up a penalty on a plate. So you can go through all 10 of the games that I just called out where we probably should have won but didn't, and find mitigating circumstances to explain them. But at the end of the day, the common theme is Erik Ten Hag and the coaching staff. If your team is consistently bottling it at the end of the game, then it is not a one-off issue with the team. It's a systematic issue with the team. And I fully understand that we have a terrible club structure that awards mediocrity and that our players are a bunch of overpaid divas. But it is ultimately your fault as the coaching staff if the performances on the pitch are consistently not up to the standard. So as a fan base, I think we can all agree that we're not really upset about the losses to teams like Bayern, Liverpool, and City. We're just not at their level. The losses that bother us, me particularly, are against teams like Galatasaray, Copenhagen, Fulham, Crystal Palace, and Nottingham Forest. Because even on our worst day, we should be putting up a decent performance and getting a win against these teams. And especially on a day like today, when we're playing 8th in the championship, Coventry City, you can't deliver a capitulation of that magnitude in the second half when you've just made 2 substitutions to your starting 11 that put you up 3-0. That cannot be acceptable. I don't care if we're playing a full 11 of youth team players because we don't have enough first team players. That is not acceptable. So, what does this mean? Is Ten Hag a terrible coach? Should we just sack him and hire someone else? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about some of the mitigating circumstances that we should consider before making that decision. Our squad this season has faced 65 separate issues of injuries or illnesses this season. And if we go through the entire starting 11 position by position, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. We haven't had a fit left back all season, with Shaw and Malacia being out. We haven't had our first choice center back partnership in Varane and Martinez for more than 3 to 4 games throughout the entire 45 games we've played. And last I checked, we've had more than 12 different center back partnerships this season, and that number went up today with Casemiro and Maguire joining the list. Both Casemiro and Mainu missed major minutes this season, which has left our defensive midfield in tatters. Rasmus Højlund has missed 13 games through 4 separate injuries, and Martial has basically never been fit all season. So from the outfield players that you see here, we've only had Diogo Dalot, Bruno Fernandes, Garnacho, and Rashford fit all season. That's 4 out of 10 outfield players that have pretty much been available to play every single game. And surprise, surprise, all 4 of these players look completely knackered at the business end of the season. All 4 of Dalot, Bruno, Rashford, and Garnacho have been playing way too many minutes because there is no quality bench depth in our squad. And even if there is, they're all out injured when they're needed. So, while injuries are not the end-all and be-all in terms of excuses, they certainly don't help Ten Hag build any sort of momentum and any sort of patterns of play over the entire season. Next, let's talk about some unique circumstances in terms of squad building and depth that Ten Hag has had to face. And we start off with Jadon Sancho, a guy who was beating Lionel Messi in terms of assists in the top 5 leagues when he was at Dortmund. He got his big money move to United and decided to just rest on his laurels and quit on his club, quit on his manager, and quit on the fans. All for one tweet that he wouldn't apologize for. Make it make sense. Ten Hag had to carry all of that drama and lose out on quality squad depth for most of this season. Next, we have Antony, the 90 million euro man that we got from Ajax, who was supposed to be the next Brazilian superstar. He doesn't have a great first season and follows it up with off-the-field issues this season, and his form has been in the gutter ever since. Then we have the issue of Ten Hag not getting most of his first choice transfer targets, and even when he did, we overpaid for every single one of them by at least 20 million euros. And by my conservative estimation, we overspent on Martinez, Antony, and Højlund, just 3 players, by at least 70 million euros. That, and maybe some more money from some other players, could have easily brought us a backup striker, another midfielder, and maybe another center back. And finally, let's talk about our star players letting Ten Hag down. Rashford, Bruno, Casemiro, Martinez, and Varane. These 5 players were the spine of our team last season, and they were who Ten Hag counted on to build a strong and robust team that got us through last season in 3rd place and, won us a trophy, got us to the FA Cup final as well. They've all fallen off a cliff in terms of form, or they've been injured for most or some of the season. How the hell is a manager supposed to get anything done when his star striker in Rashford gives him 20 fewer goals this season than last season? He has his captain in Bruno missing simple passes on the counterattack that he should be able to make in his sleep. And Casemiro is an absolute shell of himself, and both Varane and Martinez have been injured for long periods in the season. So you can kind of see a picture through the different mitigating circumstances that nothing has been going in Ten Hag's favor this year. How do you expect him to get any momentum with this squad? Just how? Now that we have all our ducks in a row, let's talk about Ten Hag out. Erik Ten Hag deserves to be sacked by Ineos at the end of this season. The player recruitment hasn't been good enough. There's been too much noise around man management around certain players and the squad in general. But most importantly, the football hasn't been good enough. By any measurement stick, this season has been one of the worst in United's modern history, and any manager overseeing this shower of shit at a big club like United needs to be sacked. There, I said it. But we're not done there, are we? Because our club isn't your average big club. We haven't moved like a big club like Madrid, Bayern, City, or Liverpool in the last 10 years. We haven't even behaved like a Barcelona, who are literally garbage by their own standards, in the last 10 years. Man United has been acting like the rich family that lives in a posh neighborhood next to other rich neighbors. They have the big mansion, the fancy cars, the perfectly landscaped gardens, everything. But the family that lives inside the home eats Kraft mac and cheese for every meal, has old rusty furniture and no internet. It's all glitz and glamour on the outside, but literal garbage standards on the inside. And it's those same garbage standards that have given Marcus Rashford £300,000 a week. They have overspent on all the players that we've purchased. They've let our training ground and Old Trafford rot. And they've made our club from what it was at its peak in its greatness to a has-been, to an also-ran, to a club that people used to think about as a great club. So when the standards at our club have been this bad for this long, forget Erik Ten Hag, even Pep freaking Guardiola would stink up the Premier League with that setup. David Ornstein said it best a few weeks ago. If Ten Hag was available as a manager on the market right now, he's exactly who we'd be looking to hire to replace Ten Hag. So maybe that means that Ten Hag isn't to blame for all that is wrong with the world. Maybe there's something deep and rotten inside that needs to be flushed out. And I think we should just wait one more year till maybe some more of that shit is flushed out. That will give Dan Ashworth, Omar Barada, Jean-Claude Bonk, and the new executives team to assess a few more things with the club, to assess Ten Hag, the players, and to draft a proper plan for what is next. I'm not saying Ten Hag is the guy to take us to the promised land. Far from it. He hasn't shown us enough yet. All I'm saying is that sacking him right now gives us nothing, because we will be stuck with the same players shitting the bed week in, week out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.